Welcome to the University of Northern Colorado Distance Dietetic Internship Open House. We are so grateful for your time and for your interest in our program. To begin, we will introduce ourselves. So my name is Brianna, and I am the program coordinator for the DI and the MSDI. I also coordinate the application review team and am one of the individuals who reviews your application. I'm also heavily involved in preceptor training and am a point of contact for future and former interns. And I'll have Michelle introduce herself.
Welcome, everyone. It's so wonderful to see all of you here this evening. My name is Michelle McDermott. I'm the current Dietetics Internship Director, as well as the MSDI Internship Director. It's one of the positions that I have here at the University of Northern Colorado. I also work with the undergraduate dietetics didactic program in the distance program, and I've done that. This will be 16 years. So I've been at UNC for quite a while. I'm very happy that you've all shown up, and hopefully we can answer many of your questions this evening. Brianna's put together a great presentation that's very informational.
Excellent. Thank you, Michelle. We're so grateful to have you. Okay, so the purpose of this presentation, it will be an opportunity for you to learn about our program as well as the application process. So our program, the UNC, the University of Northern Colorado as an institution was established in 1889, but then our program came along in 1995 and was actually the first distance DI ever to establish the distance model. Now there are several programs. We're very grateful to have been the first. And so it's been almost 30 years that we've been doing this successfully, and we are grateful for excellent applicants and interns such as yourself. So UNC is located in Greeley. However, given the nature of a distance program, you are not expected to relocate to Greeley to complete your internship unless you would like to. Some interns do relocate temporarily for 1 or 2 rotations if they have difficulty finding preceptors in their area. They may relocate to a larger city in their state or join us here in Colorado, whether that be Greeley or Denver, where we tend to have a larger preceptor network compared to other states, since this is where we're located. But many interns won't come to Colorado at all. We give you the option to choose full-time or part-time. So some programs have a set number of slots for full-time interns and a set number of slots for part-time that they'll accept. And we do not. Everyone can do full-time or everyone can do part-time. It's up to your schedule and what your preceptors can accommodate. So some preceptors do work part-time. They may ask you to complete your rotation part-time since they're not even there full-time. So even if you're designated as a full-time intern, you may find that there are some weeks that you're not rotating the quote-unquote full-time hours, and that is okay. So if you're not sure which is right for you, we can work with you on that, and don't feel as though you have to make that final decision before you apply, because that's something that can be adjusted depending on your rotation schedule and what your needs are. Also, this is our first year participating in APL, which allows interns to put past work or volunteer experience toward internship hours. It was well received this past year, so we intend to continue, and we'll provide more info on that toward the end. Another portion of our program that we like to mention is that we have been able to offer scholarships for students to attend FNCE in past years. And I've been told that we do have funds available again for FNCE 2025. And we encourage our interns to apply. So that will cover either a portion of your travel cost or the registration fee to attend. So here are some of the major admissions requirements. Our website has a more comprehensive list, so please be sure to review that. But the basic requirements include the undergraduate degree and the DPD. And then, as you probably know, in order to sit for the RDN exam, you must now have a graduate degree as well. You will come across programs that require this degree to be completed before you begin the program. We don't require this. So you do have to, however, demonstrate that you are in the process of completing one. So we as a program are really not permitted to permit entry to students who do not yet have a clear plan for completing their graduate degree. And so for that reason, we have a document that's required in your application, which I'll show you here in a bit, that provides information about your graduate degree, when it was completed, or when you intend to complete it, which should be at some point during the internship year or finishing up at the same time as your DI is finishing. There are several other admission requirements outlined on the website for you to review. Many of them are very similar to other internships, especially other distance programs. One component that I will spotlight is that we have a requirement that you have adequate technology to support your learning as a distance program. So what that includes is an adequate internet plan that will allow you to partake in virtual student hours, virtual meetings with preceptors or interviews with potential preceptors, the ability to email us and to have video calls with us as the program coordinators. So with that, you'll need a webcam with a camera, a microphone, and also a private place to participate, be it somewhere at your home or if you have an office space that you can use, or if you share it with someone, being able to schedule time that you have a private place if you are working with clients or patients virtually, or just when you're meeting with your peers in order to afford them the privacy that they deserve. Okay, so how do you apply? We're going to go through a few of the components here, so hopefully make it a little bit easier for you. So one thing I'll mention is that if anyone watching this, if you happen to be a graduate or a current UNC student, we have the option for you to apply through the early admission process. So that is a process that you can bypass DICAS. If that applies to you, if you're a current UNC student, or if you've graduated from our DPD program, email us so that we can guide you accordingly. But everyone else will use that DICAS that all programs are required to use. So if you haven't yet created an account, go ahead and do so that you can familiarize yourself with that process. DICAS will have you input several components of the application for all programs: your personal information, letter of recommendation, writer name and contact, your resume, your personal statement. A couple of things that are different or additional for us is that we have specific questions for our personal statement that we expect you to answer. These are all listed in DICAS as well as on our website. Some other notes about the UNC requirements. So we do accept applications for any GPA of 2.8 or above. So you may notice that that's different from other programs that might require a 3.0 or a 3.2. We recognize that you are more than your GPA, and we will look at you as a whole person and as a whole applicant. Your GPA is one of the many components that we assess. With that said, if your GPA is or was a 3.0 or below, we request an additional short essay question explaining what actions you took to improve your learning experience. Another additional requirement for UNC is that we require you to give us information about your graduate degree. So we have a document on the website. I'll show you where that is, but it's just a grad degree confirmation document where we ask you to input the graduate degree that you have received or are receiving. And we ask you to indicate that you will have 2 or fewer semesters remaining in that program by the time you begin the DI in June. So in other words, if you are currently in a graduate program, let's say that's 2 years long, and you just started it this fall, it'll be fall, spring, and then next year, fall, spring. That's perfectly acceptable because come June, you will just have your fall semester and then your spring semester. So two semesters remaining. However, if you're still deciding which program to apply to or what you want to pursue, and you haven't yet applied to one or been accepted into one, that is something that we need to take into account. because of the Ascend requirements for that graduate degree. And with that said, if you're in that boat and you don't yet have a graduate degree, we would invite you to look at our MSDI, because that is an online master's in dietetics with the dietetic internship. So we'll have an open house later this month to discuss that if that applies to you. Okay, moving back to the DI requirements. So if you're applying for our DI standalone, you must submit a rotation summary using the template provided. So most distance internships will require this, whereas traditional internships will not. So this is your tentative rotation schedule. You do not need to have dates confirmed. However, we do expect to see the majority of your rotation types and hours accounted for. With that said, if you're getting stuck, if you're struggling to secure preceptors, we still encourage you to submit your application. We just need to see that you've taken the steps that we ask you to take before you apply to start reaching out to preceptors. The more preceptors that have confirmed and the better your rotation summary looks, that is something that we take into account when we are reviewing your application. So along with that is that we require you to submit information about your preceptors. So we have a master preceptor list that we will send you if you haven't already emailed us to request it. Anybody who is on that list, you can assume that we have the information that we need. The only information we need from you is documentation of their willingness to host you. So typically that just means taking a screenshot or downloading the email communication of them stating, yes, I am willing to host you for your community hours or whichever rotation. Take a screenshot of your emails, combine them into a PDF, and then upload them to DICAS. Now, if you are pursuing preceptors who are not already on our list, we need some additional things from them. The first one is listed as the preceptor facility form. This form is on our website. I will show you where to find it. Download it, send it to them, request that they complete it, and then gather all of the forms together into one PDF and upload that to DICAS along with the preceptor resume or CV, whichever they have available to send you. This serves a couple of purposes. So one is that we want to confirm that they're equipped to precept you, that they have had the experience, the skills, the education that we require for our preceptors. Which the main requirement is that all preceptors have had 2 or more years experience in their field, either as a dietitian or in their whatever role it is that they're in. We also use this to begin the process of requesting what is called an affiliation agreement. This is a legal contract between us and the rotation sites. So the information on that form helps us begin that process so that you're ready to go by the time you start the internship. So let's just say you have a couple of preceptors who you found on our list, and then let's say a preceptor who was not on our list, who you found on your own and from your own professional network. What you would do is any preceptor that was on our list, again, screenshot those emails, download those emails. The preceptor that was not on our list, gather the preceptor form and their resume, and then take all of those things, the screenshot of the emails, the preceptor form, the resume, put them together into one PDF and upload that to DICAS. Now, I've mentioned a lot of forms and a lot of requirements here, so I'm going to show you now where to find them. From the home screen, you can go to the application process. And here is where the dietetic internship documents are. So the application instructions that I mentioned for you to download. And then the rotation summary form is here. So let's take a peek at this. This is an Excel document. I encourage you to download it. Download it to your computer so that you can make edits on it and save it to your computer and then upload that to DICAS. There are detailed instructions on the document itself. as well as there is a video right on this page toward the bottom for you to take a peek at, that will walk you through the process. And so I would encourage you to watch that, because you can fast forward, you can pause, you can go back. Hopefully it'll be pretty self-explanatory, but we want to give you all the tools that you need to succeed. Okay, the next one here is the preceptor and facility form. This is the form that I mentioned for you to please download and send to any preceptor who's not on the preceptor list already, okay? So this is where we're going to ask them to input information about themselves, about their facility, as well as what populations you'll have exposure to. Because that's how we make sure that you have a well-rounded variety of experiences. The other document I referred to here is that graduate degree confirmation. So again, you can save this by just clicking the save button and then download it, complete it, and upload it to DICAS if you are applying to that DI standalone, which I know most of you who are here today will be. The other components on this page here are preceptor information for you to familiarize yourself with what is a preceptor. So please take a peek at this page here, and so that when you are contacting preceptors, you know just what it is that we expect to see in our preceptors. And then when you're reaching out to preceptors, you don't have to start from scratch. I know it can be so challenging to, once you get a contact, get that email started, to say like, okay, where do I begin from here? What do I say? How do I word this? Well, lucky for you, we've got a sample email that you can just copy and paste into the body of the email. Just please read through it. Make sure that you're inputting any information that is highlighted or that, you know, is generic. And also make sure to adjust the verbiage so that it does sound like it's coming from you and not from me. But that's there as a template to guide you.
Brianna,
Yes.
I'm just going to add to that, if you have preceptors asking specific questions and they're not quite sure if what they're doing in their own current job will fit what you need, they can use this link as a resource as well, and it'll define to them what the preceptor is, but also the list of competencies that every intern has to accomplish during their internship. So they're able to look at that list and say, oh, I could do these 8 things on this list while they're with me, and that gives them a real concrete sense of what is needing to be done during that rotation. So you can refer them to these links as well, or provide the links in your emails to them.
Absolutely. Thank you, Michelle. Yes. And the list of competencies that Michelle just referred to is right here. So we actually do ask once you start communicating with preceptors that you send this list to them so that they can take a look and make sure that they can fulfill at least some of the competencies. And if they feel like they are struggling to comprehend it, that's something that I work with them on. So if you have a preceptor who maybe has never precepted before, is maybe not a dietitian, maybe isn't familiar with all of the requirements, they may be confused. And so as long as they're willing to work with you and work with me, you can put them on the rotation summary form, and then I will educate them when the time comes for you to move forward with your rotations. We have, as I mentioned, that preceptor list. Our email link is right here for you, and I'll put that in the chat right now as well. If you don't already have our preceptor list, email us. We'd be happy to provide it. That list is any individual who has worked in the past with us and who is willing to work with us again. Doesn't necessarily mean that they may not have the capacity to take an intern 1 year or whatever the case may be. But those are preceptors who've worked with us, who we have agreements with. Now, that may mean if you're applying to other distance programs, some preceptors will only work with us or in maybe one other school, or only have a certain number of contracts with schools. So you may just have to keep that in mind, that your rotation schedule may have to look different if you're applying to other programs. And then A&D also has a database where you can input your location and dietitians who've identified themselves as preceptors are on that list. The other ways you can find preceptors are through LinkedIn. Highly encourage you to, if you haven't already, created a LinkedIn account, updated it, and started just connecting with people, with dietitians, with peers, colleagues, past employers, to stay in touch so that you have them in your network to contact if needed. And then several videos for you to help guide you through that process. So as far as your rotations go, there is so much detail on our website about this. So we want it to be there for you so that you know what you need, but we also recognize that it can be overwhelming. So hopefully these next couple of minutes will help ease any anxiety you're having about wrapping your head around the requirements. So as far as your rotations go, there are core rotations that are basically required by any internship for the most part, and that would include food service, community, and clinical. Clinical has the strictest requirements, which are listed on the screen. So any clinical preceptor must be a dietitian. You must have a facility accredited by either the Joint Commission, which is JCAL, or by DNV. And then you also must have a facility that is an adult inpatient large hospital. And most of your clinical hours should be spent there. So typically 200 of the 300 at an inpatient facility is a great number. Some facilities require you to be there for 300, sometimes 400 hours, and we allow up to 400 hours for each of the core rotations so that you have some wiggle room. Now, if you're someone who's interested in pediatrics, that's fabulous. We have several pediatric facilities on the list, and there are also several hospitals that have both adult and peds. So you're welcome to spend the remainder of your hours at a pediatric specialized hospital, as long as the majority are at that adult inpatient facility. And the reason for that is because that's where we see the majority of our clinical RD exam questions. And also just in general, when we think about the population of people who are in hospitals and long-term cares, there are more adults than pediatrics. So it's more likely that you'll end up in a job that's working with adults, and that's why we have that requirement. But we more than encourage you to explore the pediatric realm as well, especially if that's an interest of yours. As far as your food service rotation, that can be done at a school, like a K through 12 school or a university. It can be done at a hospital. Those are the two big ones that we often see, and where you'll probably get the best experience, the best learning experience. As far as community, there are so many options for community. We highly encourage a WIC rotation so that you can experience pediatrics, pregnancy and lactation, but you can also spend time at the FDA or Meals on Wheels, or even schools can be used for community depending on what it is that you'll be doing at that school. We allow 100 to 200 hours in an area of concentration. We have 3 concentrations from which to choose. And then with wiggle room within each concentration of where actually you want to spend that time. So the intensive care unit concentration, that's where you'll be diving deeper into nutrition support for critically ill patients, practice working with a multidisciplinary team, or if you want to expand on your leadership and management skills, you can choose management and work with a food service or a clinical manager, or in a private practice with someone who manages employees. You can also choose nutrition ed and counseling and focus on those education skills. That can be done in settings similar to your community rotation. So that could be WIC, could be a private practice, any outpatient nutrition counseling. We often have interns work with sports dietitians or at eating disorder treatment centers. And that's a great way to expand on your education skills. We do also have a long-term care requirement of a minimum of 40 hours and a maximum of 80. So it's a pretty short rotation, but it's a great opportunity for you to learn about older adults, about dysphagia, and about either food service or clinical in a nursing home, a skilled nursing facility, a rehab, or an assisted living. So those 40 to 80 hours, you can either work with the dietitian and then put those hours toward clinical, or you can spend your time in the food service and put those hours toward your 300 food service hour. And then as previously mentioned, we have APL, and that can be up to 220 hours accounted for either your community or your food service rotation. So you cannot do APL for clinical and you cannot do APL for concentration. So now that we've kind of talked about the different rotation types, I'm going to now open up the master preceptor list. On the first tab, we've got instructions of how to navigate this and how to read this. The second tab is going to be all of our preceptors that have worked with us in the past and who are willing to work with us in the future. So this is a huge list. I think there are over 600 facilities listed on here. They are organized by state on the left. And then there are some remote rotations, which are, you just scroll down to the R. This is alphabetical. So you're welcome to do up to 200 hours in a remote rotation. Okay, so the way that you could navigate this is, like I mentioned, we've got state on the left and then the facility name and the rotation area. So I just explained to you what we require in terms of rotations. We don't have this, the rotation area specified for all of them. And for some of them that we do, it doesn't necessarily mean that that is the only rotation that they are willing to precept. What I mean by that is, like, for this one that I have highlighted here, it is listed as clinical with the designation of outpatient. So that doesn't necessarily mean that this preceptor will only accept you for a clinical rotation. If you're interested in, let's say, that nutrition ed and counseling concentration, you can always ask them if they are willing to host you for those 100 to 200 concentration hours. So I just wanted to make sure to mention that so that you don't feel stuck if, you know, the rotation or the facilities in your area are all listed as community, but, you know, you think, okay, well, maybe I could do food service there, or maybe I could do nutrition ed there. This is just kind of there to guide you. I also, we have listed some information about, like, especially the clinical rotations. I'm trying to go through and input every hospital, how many beds they have, whether or not they're JCAHO accredited, so that it's easy for you. With that said, please just double check, because sometimes, like, hospitals expand, sometimes they decrease their size. And I'm not going through all 600 of these on a monthly basis. So I just wanted to mention that some even inpatient hospitals move more toward, like, just having outpatient and have less inpatient. So this may not be 100% up to date, but it's there to help guide you along the way. And then if you scroll over, all of the preceptor information is listed. There are a couple of other things I wanted to point out here. So we've got the potential preceptors. So these are preceptors who have told me, yes, I will host an intern. Great. But we do not yet have a contract with these facilities or with that preceptor. So you're welcome to contact anybody on this list. Just know that they have to fill out that preceptor facility form and send you a resume, because we don't yet have a contract with them. So I'm hoping that that doesn't confuse you too much, but just to reiterate, any preceptor found on the UNC Preceptor and Facilities tab, you can assume that we have their information, that they've worked with us in the past, unless otherwise stated, but they do not need to fill out that preceptor form that we require from any preceptor who is either not on this list or who is on this list as a potential preceptor. Okay. Hopefully that helped and didn't confuse you.
And just to add to that a little bit, and I don't mean to confuse anybody either, but when you are applying, we really only need the preceptor's information to make sure that they are appropriate to be a preceptor. We do not need to have that contract in place prior to you being accepted to the program. So contracts happen after acceptance into the program. So we just need their personal professional information. So don't worry about that contract stuff until a later date.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Yes, that is correct. And the last thing I'll point out here is that this is listed in many, many places, but just so that it's absolutely clear what rotations are required. It's listed here again, along with several tools to help you. So we've got some links up here. We've got some search ideas down here. And so if you're in an area, let's say where we don't have any community preceptors on the list, you can then take a peek on here and think, okay, great. I didn't even think to ask my local food bank. Or, oh yeah, the American Heart Association has a facility near me where they do research and events. So this is just meant to serve as a guide and as a search idea for you if you're in need of that. Continuing on with the application requirements, DICAS has a fee. So you have to pay DICAS to use DICAS. All of the fees that you pay DICAS stay there. So most programs will also have an application fee, as do we, which goes toward the time spent reviewing the application. So our fee is, we have a $50 fee that can be paid using the link on the application instructions document. That again is on the website. I highlighted over that. So there's a link that you can go to pay the fee prior to the deadline of February 1st. And while we're on the topic of application, we thought you might be interested to know what we expect to see in our applicants. So we have a few things that we look for. We will be assessing your personal statement for whether or not, number one, whether or not you answered the questions that we requested for you to answer, but also for clarity, for consistency, and that your professionalism comes through your writing. Please have someone proofread this, ideally someone from the writing center at your school or somebody who was a current or past professor, someone who works in the dietetics field who might be familiar with what internships are interested in learning about you. But at the very least, somebody else that's not you, have them read through it for spelling and grammar. That's going to be big for us. We also love to see applicants who have had experience working in the field. Now, many interns tend to be weak in the clinical side of things. So if you have any clinical experience, or if you're considering applying for a job at a hospital or a long-term care, whether that be providing nutrition counseling of some sort or working in the food service side of things, it could be working or even volunteering. We really like to see that because a lot of interns we find are not comfortable being in the hospital or working with patients, even in a capacity of delivering meal trays. So if you've had experience, that puts you one step above, and we love to see that. We also, given that our mission is to produce leaders in the field, show us how you already are a leader. Make sure if you held a leading role on a team or a club or a job that you address that on your resume or in your personal statement. And then another quality we expect to see is professionalism. When communicating with us, with your peers, with your preceptors, if you reach out to us via email or to your preceptors via email, and they share any communication with us, we'll be looking for a formal address. So if they have a doctorate, they should be addressed as doctor. If not, if you know their pronouns, they should be addressed as Ms. or Mr. You shouldn't be beginning emails with hey so-and-so, rather something more formal like hello or dear. This is really important because you're about to go into these rotation sites and represent UNC, but more importantly, represent yourself to your potential future employers. So let's start this off strong and show them how professional we are. Okay, so moving forward, here are some major requirements required to complete the UNC internship. These first couple listed here are not only requirements to graduate, but also requirements to begin. So first off, we do have some online review courses for you. These are for our standalone dietetic interns. The MSDI students don't do this because they've just done their MS. So if you are interested in our program, please mark your calendars for the dates listed. These courses are online and they are asynchronous, meaning that you complete them more or less on your own time. But typically the instructor will hold office hours in the morning or at some point during the day. And you'll also have group projects. So you'll be expected to be available to meet with a group. And you can expect to spend, some interns will spend about 8 hours per day on the days listed, since this is really meant to be a crash course on these topics before you begin any rotations. Immediately following that, or a week or two following that, is our orientation. It generally, at least in the past several years, this has consisted of a three-day virtual orientation, typically on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, the last week of June. With that said, the exact dates for this are not yet finalized, but when they are, we will be putting those on the website. Regardless, as you contact preceptors and create a tentative schedule, we would recommend a start date of July 7th for your rotations. You cannot start rotations before orientation has concluded, and you must start within 4 weeks of orientation. So in other words, if our orientation is the last week of June, you have to start by the last week of July. So scheduling your first rotation to begin mid-July is perfect. And then at the end, once all 1,000 hours have been completed, and once you provide verification of a confirmed graduate degree, if you did not already, then you will receive your verification statement and be eligible to sit for the RDN exam. Please note that if you are in the process of completing your graduate degree and it is not completely done at the same time as you finish your internship, you must have that grad degree completed before we can provide you the verification and before you can sit for your RDN exam. Okay, so if you have not already done so, bookmark our website. I've sent it in the chat. And then take a look at the instructions that are on our website, as well as those that are in diecast. And we are also here for you. So our email address gets checked daily. And if you don't hear back right away, it's probably because we are trying to get you the most correct answer to your question. That's monitored by the admissions coaches as well as us. And speaking of our admissions coaches, Anna Taylor is our admissions coach. So please schedule a one-on-one meeting with her if you would like to. We're here for you. I do want to spend a few minutes talking about APL so that now that you understand the ins and outs of the dietetic internship, if this is something that you're interested in, we'll discuss it here. So this is not anything that you need to be tending to now, because we won't accept an application until after you've been accepted, so sometime in the spring. However, we've had quite a bit of interest on the topic and several questions have come up, so we'll get to some of that now. So we have, we allow up to 220 hours to be fulfilled through APL. In order to fulfill them, you need to show us that you've worked at least 500 hours in or volunteered in the community or the food service setting. We have an algorithm to determine how many hours are awarded. You can receive up to 220, which means that you then only have 780 hours for your internship and not the full 1,000. As mentioned, those hours can be put toward food service or community, not both, and not 50-50, one or the other, leaving you only about 80 hours to complete in your community or your food service rotation to make up the 300 that we require. If you're wondering whether or not your position might be able to be put toward APL, please review the list of activities within the APL application documents on our website. They're on the curriculum page of our website. Feel free to take a look. If you feel like the activities you've done in your position can demonstrate knowledge in those areas, then your job can be considered. But if you're looking at that list and you notice that you didn't, in fact, do much that was, we look for in the internship, then that may be the sign that it's not going to work for APL. You're welcome to apply, and we can work with that as it comes. But if you're not able to demonstrate that you've met the competencies, then we can't accept. We can't reduce your internship hours because you still have more to learn in your internship. There's also a video that you can watch on our website. Okay, well, thank you so much, everyone, for your interest in our program. We look forward to reading your application. Now, just before opening it up for questions, I wanted to make sure to announce, as mentioned, if you're able to stick around for another hour until 6:45, we'll be hearing from former and current students about their experience. And then if you have any interest in learning about our MSDI on November 19th, we'll be discussing that. It'll be at 5 p.m. on that Tuesday, and the registration info is on our website. I've also listed QR codes for our Instagram and our TikTok pages, and I'm going to send our Facebook page in the chat for you. We post updates, reminders, application tips, and information relevant to our program, as well as others, just tips to help you in the process. We also post many videos introducing our department and just us genuinely having a blast together. So we encourage you to follow us. We don't look at the pages to follow us, so don't stress. That's just there for you all to use. So I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to address the questions that were in the chat. So most recently, is the GPA requirement for the most recently completed degree, i.e. graduate degree, if applicable? Michelle, are you able to answer that? I'm not sure that I can.
But it is a cumulative degree. So if you have a graduate degree, it will be, your GPA will be calculated both on undergrad and graduate together combined as a cumulative GPA. That being said, we also lend weight to the most recent, courses that you've taken, like the last 60 credit hours, if they're within, the area of nutrition, especially.
Okay, thank you. There was a question about the cost, so that all of the expenses are listed on the expense page, and I can send you the link to that directly, so that you can see the cost of the program as well as the estimated costs for other parts of the program. Early admission is for current UNC students or DPD graduates. So if that applies to you, either you should have access to the Canvas shell, or we can send you that. I'm not sure, is a concentration required? A concentration is required for all interns in the program, if that was the question. So someone asked if I have a master's and I'm completing the DPD in December. Is the earliest I can start interning July 7th? Yes, so everyone starts in June with the courses that we mentioned, the orientation, and then your rotations. We do not permit rotations to begin earlier than that. Victoria, I see your hand is raised.
Yeah, I have two questions. My first one is if we're completing our graduate degree by spring of 25, I did see on the website something mentioned having our advisor send a letter confirming degree completion. Should we still have that sent in if we're slated to graduate in the spring or no?
If it is this upcoming spring, no, right, Michelle?
Correct. You will have you can do, I'm trying to think, when we will just need to know that you're completing it. We just have to have the actual degree, a transcript with a confirmed degree on that prior to starting the internship in June, those June courses and then orientation, we need to have that transcript available to us. If for some reason the transcript turnaround from when you graduate, because some universities graduate early May, late May, and it looks like it's going to be a tight turnaround that we wouldn't actually get that official transcript, then we would probably request that your advisor fill that out just to let us know, yes, you will be graduating, even though that transcript is not going to be available till mid-June or early July.
Gotcha. And then as far as orientation, and I know you mentioned it's the last week of June. Um, do you know if it will fall into July at all? Because I know June 30th is a Monday.
Yes, and that is why we haven't finalized it, because we wanted to confirm between us as a department. So there is a chance that it may be June 30th and July 1st, or the week before, but we didn't want to say that yet until it was absolutely confirmed.
Gotcha. Do you know when those exact dates will be out?
No, I
Okay,
think we're going to be
sorry.
working with our faculty that are coming in the spring and try to get that organized.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. There were a couple of questions about AP. So one question about clinical and precepting. So the only preceptor who must be an RDN is your clinical preceptor. Community and food service and concentration preceptors do not have to be dietitians. We of course love to see that because they've been through this. They know what you need to learn, and they have that knowledge. But it's not required. We often have preceptors, food service managers, or WIC nutritionists, or anything in between. So just your clinical, whether that's inpatient, outpatient, or long-term care, that person has to be a dietitian. And the question about APL, can the 220 hours be part of the 500 hours, or are those hours additional? I think, I'm not sure if I'm confused. So the 220 hours refers to the hours that get removed from your internship hours. The 500 hours are the minimum hours that you must have worked or volunteered in order to even be considered for APL. So those 2 hours are really not related to one another. And then a question about, can our transcript be sent to UNC? Can our transcripts sent to UNC transfer over to DI, I assume?
Yeah, the dicus, if that makes sense, is I actually applied to UNC and I didn't realize I needed to apply additionally, and I've already paid the $11 and my transcript from UC Denver has already been sent. And so putting it in like per semester and what class, it's pretty tedious, and I'm wondering, well, the transcript I've already submit, can it just transfer over? Do they collaborate together at all? If that makes sense?
So DICUS is a clearinghouse for all your transcripts for all of the programs that you may or may not apply to. So say you apply to 4 programs, every program that you can apply to looks in DICUS to see those transcripts. So if you're applying somewhere else, you're going to have to upload those. If you're only applying to UNC and have no need for those other transcripts, you could possibly make a note of that, and we can search the database to see if we can find that official transcript on the UNC side, because the internship is not a degree granted. It's not a terminal degree that you would normally get as if you applied to UNC. So we'll just have to talk to a different system, but I'm sure there's something we can work out. But just for your clarification, if you're applying to multiple programs, you would have to re-upload your transcripts to DICUS.
Okay, thank you. My main goal is the master's program of the dietitian plus the internship. And so I've already applied at UNC and everything's complete. And then I found out I need to apply for the internship portion as well. And I sounds like maybe I should just book myself an appointment.
Yeah,
At
so
the
I
one
just
off.
want to make sure this information we're discussing is for the DI standalone, and that's a separate application process from the MSDI. So the MSDI application in DieCast just opened on the 1st of this month. So you should be able to open up your DieCast, search University of Northern Colorado Masters in Dietetics with Dietetic Internship, and then add that program to your DieCast applications. You should not be applying to the DI standalone unless you intend to complete the DI standalone. Those are two separate programs. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we will, as a reminder, be having our open house for the MSDI on November 19th. And the information presented will be similar to today, but we won't be going into detail about the rotation schedule or the preceptor forms because there is no need. We do not ask you to upload those since that's part of the program. We do that together. Whereas the DI standalone, when you apply, you have to demonstrate that you've found your preceptors so that you're ready to jump in come June. So a question about when is the early enrollment for MSDI for UNCO? I assume you're referring to early admission. Questions about early admission are all answered in the DPD Canvas shell. I'm going to try not to talk too much about that here so as not to confuse everyone. So please, if you have questions about that, reach out to us directly if your questions are not answered in the Canvas shell.
Yeah, Priscilla, you should be able to also see that within your 410 senior seminar course. We'll be discussing it, and then the ongoing shell for undergrads at UNC as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So another question, would a rural health program run by a university overseen by a dietitian count toward community hours? Probably, yeah. Absolutely. Thank you, everybody who's come and who has to head out. We understand if you can't stay for the next portion. In our final few minutes, what final questions do you have? And if you're not feeling up for unmuting yourself, you can always email the dietetic.internship email. But otherwise, we'll give ourselves a few minutes here in between now and the Q&A session. We'll start that in just about 5 minutes. So if you're staying, you're welcome to take a break. You can log off of Zoom and then log back in, or you can leave yourself right where you are, and we'll reconvene in a few minutes here.
Thank you, everyone.
Am I okay to ask a quick question, Brianna?
Please,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, so my situation is I actually have already been working in SNAP and part of the public health emergency. And my goal is to more make changes at the federal level. So I was interested with WIC, and I was thinking a partnership with Adams County because when I looked, there was only 2 options for Colorado, which was Aurora Children's Hospital and Greeley. So I chose Greeley, and I was wanting to know more how the hours worked because I work 410s Tuesday through Friday and have Mondays off. So I was wondering, well, can I do my internship hours on Monday? So I'm more interested in also making changes for the American people and children that are on a rising with autism and ADHD. And I actually I want to be a part of what the Kennedys are doing. I want to make changes with American food standards to like Europeans, and our shelf life seems to be lower. And so I want to go more government level. Is that something, because I picked Greeley, but hearing that if I'm wanting to go more that sector, would I be able to partnership with Adams County and get more into the government piece is where I'm wanting to go to make changes.
You certainly can and can count that toward your community hours and or even your concentration. I would say if you're a part-time intern, we do request that you rotate for 20 hours per week. And depending on when your preceptors are available, it may be challenging to do that on the days that you're not already working. So that may be more of a personal conversation that we have to navigate, but we do have interns who work, and actually that's the next session that's coming up to hear from those interns. But I will say it will be challenging to try to continue to work your 410s in addition to rotating 20 hours per week for the
And 2
internship.
special needs kids.
Oh, goodness. Yes. Yes. So that's just
Yeah.
something to consider. That this is probably a longer discussion than what we can afford you today. But just that's one thing I wanted to be sure to mention.
Okay, sounds good. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And then the last question we'll answer here was about creating a diecast account. If you are not applying until 2026,
You should not be in DICUS.
yeah. You should be.
I'll wait to create that account.
Correct.
Okay.
You will be able to open it in August, like the first week of August, 2025.
Okay.
You'll be able to open your DICUS account, and then all the programs that you'll want will have their application dates in there by then. If you actually enroll today, it does 2 different things. Your account will disappear. So everything that you put in, they're assuming that you're wanting to match in 2025. And so if you don't match, it'll go down as statistics you didn't match, but then it will also remove your information because the new cohort will start in 2026. So
Okay. Well, I haven't completely created the account. I just put my name and my email address, and it's asking me for a program, and then that's where I stopped because I saw 2025. Okay. I will try to exit out of this.
so
Thank
first
you.
week of August, next fall.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.